my last video, I mentioned that the major second didn't have much to say as an interval. Well, nothing could be further than the truth when you think about the minor third. In fact, the minor third being one half of the coin that makes up the major minor tonality, that's been our dominating system for nearly 400 years. Not surprising that this is actually quite an important interval. The minor third itself is one of those intervals that is actually found in speech inflections when it comes to saying sad things or sad phrases. This minor third also crops up in the teasing taunts of young children. I'm sure we've all heard this before. There's our minor third again. Turns out that this is a bit of a universal. A lot of cultures, not just Western cultures, use this interval in that respect as well. It's interesting to think that when we think of sad music or sad tunes or sad songs, they tend to be in the minor key. Perhaps the speech side of things is one side of that. It could also be that the minor third is slightly closer to the root than the major third. It being closer in that respect makes it sound a little bit more dark and a little bit more dissonant. So there are quite a few factors that could perhaps go into making the minor third a sad interval as it's recognized. But for the purposes of ear training, hearing this interval and being able to memorize the sound of it, there are a lot of good tunes that crop up, are suggested to be good ear training tunes for the minor third. For instance, descending minor thirds, you could think of Hey Jude. You could also think of the Star Spangled Banner. Even Bob the Builder. Another good one would be Misty. The trouble with those particular examples, even though they're descending minor thirds, the more important point is that they are minor thirds within a major context. If we go back to our Hey Jude example, it's actually outlining a major triad. It's going from the fifth to the major third down to the root. And of course, the perfect fifth to the major third is a minor third. And the same with our Star Spangled Banner. It's probably better to look at tunes that are actually in the minor key for the purposes of ear training and learning what the minor third actually sounds like. For instance, Greensleeves would be a good one. So that minor third is coming straight from the root. Another good example might be the old 1960s Spider-Man theme. And that's doubly as good because we have a minor triad going up and a diminished triad coming down. Diminished triads being made, of course, of minor thirds all the way. Minor third, minor third, minor third. Also, another good one would be Spoonful by Cream. There, of course, we have the minor third going up and down in pitch. But my personal favourite would be Mad World. In particular, the Gary Jules version of Mad World. And it's quite an emotional tune as well. And don't forget, we are looking at melodies as well as intervals. Let's have a closer look at that. I think you can agree that's a very emotionally charged melody. It underlines what makes a good melody. If we think about some of the ingredients that go into making a good melody, and I think this particular tune certainly ticks most of those boxes, especially so when we think of the Gary Jules version, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a lot slower than the original Tears for Fears. Number two, the emotional catch in Gary's vocals is quite moving in the way that he sings this piece. Also, the instrumentation is quite sparse as well. You think there's only a piano and then later on a cello and a few effects, and that's it really, as opposed to the more upbeat Tears for Fears version. What about what goes into the tune itself? And again, this is what we're interested in when it comes to what makes a good melody. First of all, structurally, it's pretty straightforward. We have the intro and we have verse, sub-chorus, chorus. So you could put that as ABC. Within those sections, the intro, the sub-chorus and the chorus itself all use the same two chords. Those two chords that you have at the intro and the sub-chorus and the chorus are built from the Dorian mode. So this is very much a modal piece of music in that we're calling the Dorian scale 1. So the chord, the minor chord built on the Dorian scale, is our first chord, or chord number 1. And the second chord is a major chord, which is upper fourth. The two parent scales would be Dorian and then Mixolydian. So you have Dorian, upper fourth, you get Mixolydian. So chord 1, minor, going to chord 4, major. Now that in itself is quite a common chord progression, just those two chords. That crops up in many pieces. For instance, Good Times, Uptown Funk, Pick Up the Pieces, I Wish, many tunes by Pink Floyd, as in Breathe, for instance, and many others besides. So it's a very melodic chord sequence in the way that the two scales work together. The next group of chords that are slightly different are in the verse. So in the verse we have chords 1 minor, going to flat 3 major, flat 7 major, going to 4 major. These scale progressions crop up elsewhere as well. Two good examples would be Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day and Wonderwall by Oasis. Harmonically speaking, it's not a complex tune, and melodically speaking, it's not a complex tune either. A lot of the tunes that we've looked at so far have used melodic devices like suspensions or appoggiaturas, but this tune has none of that. In fact, the whole melody is built from chord tones. Very simplistic in its structure, but I think the emotional side of things comes from the placement of all these minor thirds. Let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. But before we do, I just wanted to mention the intro line that's played on the Gary Jules version, which sounds like this. You can hear a kind of version of this in the original Tears for Fears version. In the chorus, you hear the piano repeating the double eighth notes figure of the melody or the vocal line itself. But with the Danny Jules version, they've kind of souped this up, as it were, by putting in some leaping notes that take it away from the scale itself. In the middle of this, you still have that descending line, but with the Gary Jules version. Now, the first three notes are known as a cambiata, which means they leap away from the target note and then come back by a leap. And the following line is what's known as escape notes or escape tones. What we're doing, instead of going down the scale, we're now coming up. Going back to the opening line in the verse is a rising and falling minor third. So that's our first minor third. And then we go up to the A, becomes a descending major third, and then it goes to the E, descending minor third, and then we go to the B, and it comes comes down the scale, but within that scale we still have a minor third before it gets back to the root, which is the F sharp. Now within that you've got a call and response pattern. So that's your call, and the response is our descending minor third, repeated, and repeated again with a descending minor scale. So from there we go into the sub-chorus. We still have this kind of call and response pattern. It's been slightly shortened and then shifted across the bars, which is our call pattern, and then response. The call pattern is going up in pitch with a descending third on the end, and then the response is also notice the beginning of that call pattern in the sub-chorus, we're going up a minor triad. And from there we go into the chorus, and all the chorus is just a descending minor third. But if we put the harmony with that, we have a minor third descending into a perfect fifth on the B. I hope this has been helpful in pointing out that a really simple arrangement or a really simple melody like this can evoke an emotional response purely through the use, well, the quite strategic use of intervals, in fact, against the harmony. I think this is case in point, and in doing so in a very sort of modal way, as it were, I think it's quite a wonderful tune. So I do hope this has been useful for you, and I do hope that you can take some of these ideas that will help you produce some of your own bass lines, tunes or melodies, or go into your soloing. You know, these are all useful tools in the musician's toolbox. So again, I hope that's been helpful to you. My name's Pete, this is The Infinite Bass. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.